Gary Vaynerchuk, host of Wine Library TV, a.k.a. WLTV, and this is BBQ Central.
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike your match, and oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
All right, good evening and welcome to the Really Big BBQ Central Show. This is the show that talks about all things important in the world of barbecue and grilling. We broadcast live and direct from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city of Cleveland, Ohio. It is the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I'm your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening. If you want to get in touch with the show this evening, if you have an email question you would like to get off to me but don't know the email address, let me help you out with that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com or on the Twitter and Instagrams at BBQ Central Show.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you didn't get the newsletter. Coming up first in that first ever so coveted interview segment in about 12 minutes from now, it is the third week of the month. And we know what happens when the third week of the month rolls around. Of course, we get a visit from multiple time, if not the most successful and prolific author when it comes to live fire, barbecue, grilling, coals, smoke, wood, all of that, all encompassing. He is a cooking class instructor. He is a TV show host. On top of all of that, Steven Raichlen will be joining us, Barbecue Bible. And then 35 past the hour, we'll be joined by a guy who has been on the show a few different times. We've had a number of really good barbecue and grilling related conversations. This coming weekend, believe it or not, the Houston Livestock and Rodeo / barbecue competition will be taking place. Last year, he was first in ribs, believe it or not. He is the vice president of Head Country. Paul Schatte will be joining me. And we'll talk to him about what it looks like from a competition setup this coming weekend, what his shot of winning the Houston Livestock and Rodeo might be, the overall hype of the event. So looking forward to catching up with Paul. Then we'll move to the second hour. I am always humbled and looking forward to this barbecue conversation when he comes on. He is a barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Barbecue, but before it all became way too popular and everybody wanted to have one, he was the very first full-time barbecue editor in this country. Thanks to Texas Monthly, we will be joined by none other than the world's very first barbecue editor, Daniel Vaughn from Texas Monthly Barbecue. And then to close out the show, we will be joined by a fellow named Brad Taylor. He is from Barbecue for Life. BBQ, the numeral 4 life.net is his website. That's a restaurant website. And if you are a fan of the show, if you diligently follow the live feed, or if you are a subscriber on podcast, you know I did a story about Brad. I don't know if I used his name last week or not, but this was the guy who had his likeness kind of ripped from Dickey's barbecue pit. I was able to track him down thanks to friend of the show, John Dawson, out of Boise, Idaho, which is where Brad is from as well. And we'll talk to him about that whole situation. And there is quite the story that goes on about what happened originally and perhaps how it's all been rectified since that initial reporting. So that's what you have to look forward to here in this show. Steven Raichlen in about 10 minutes. Paul Schatte after that. Second hour, Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly Barbecue. Brad Taylor helping me close out the show. All right, I want to mention this first before I run out of time. This is typically where I tell you to make sure that you subscribe to the podcast. I'll get to that here in a second. But aside from the Houston Livestock and Rodeo, this weekend also is going to be the re-unveiling or a new year of start for the Smithfield Guinea Pig competition. This one near and dear to a lot of competitive barbecuers, especially on the West Coast, or if you happen to know Matt Dalton when he was out there competing before he passed away in a very untimely fashion. That competition is going to be taking place this coming weekend. Now, you know me, when it comes to the guinea pig contest, I love the concept. I know some people feel like they want to bring their own meat to a competition. And hey, if that's your thing, then the guinea pig is not your style of event. However, if you're looking to get into competition barbecue, you don't want to spend a boatload of cash to try it out. If you take part in a guinea pig style, and there are not a lot of these competitions around, maybe 4 this year. Got one over in California. I think they're going to do another one in Virginia. There might be a few in the center portion of the country, although I do not have confirmation of that yet. But I think it's $400 or $450. All meat is supplied. Everybody's on that level playing field. So you have to be able to show your pitmaster skills, but it pays deep, 10 deep overall, 10 deep through categories. So it's really providing incentive for people to get out there on the competition scene if it's something that they have often thought about doing, but as they do their due diligence and find out what the cost of it is or what people are recommending they get or purchase in order to be competitive right off of the bat, people might get a little bit of a sticker shock as far as that's concerned and go, maybe competition barbecue isn't for me. Hey, I'm the host. I've always railed against competition barbecue. I've always said that's not for me for various reasons. You can go back through the annals of the show and hear why I think that, although I have no trouble interviewing those pit masters who do very well in the competition circuit. I love doing that. That's why the show is so great, because people will come on and talk to me about why they're competing and how they're competing and why they're winning. But in this instance, this Smithfield guinea pig event is really good because it does control costs. So again, if it's a first time or a second time out, you don't want to feel like you have to break the bank in order to be competitive, or at least to get a chance of sniffing a win or a category call or both. Then this is an event that you're going to want to try and seek out or pay attention to. So congratulations again to Sterling Ball, Big Papa Smokers, everybody there at that team, Smithfield, for getting on board with this and doing a sponsorship and doing that cost-controlled event, making it into another year. And if you talk to Sterling Ball about it, you know, it's not a money maker, that's for sure. Hard to put on, hard to get people behind it. But once you do it, you realize that, A, this isn't just a competition for beginners. Savvy vets are signing up for this because they realize the payout. I think it's something like 60% of teams that show up for this, because it is capped at a certain number as well, are walking away with a check. Very cool concept. One that I thought would be catching on perhaps a little bit more, but, you know, barbecuers very ardent in their ways, not really liking the change, want to have control of everything, so they don't like the fact that well, not everybody doesn't like it, but some don't like the fact that meats are provided for you, all that good stuff. So, once again, congratulations to Sterling Ball for unveiling yet another guinea pig, Smithfield guinea pig, this one, the Matt Dalton Memorial. So, shout out to Matt as well. We miss you every day, buddy. Now, reaction to the Justin Margus throwing the Rectech grill off his back patio was nothing short of insanely popular over the last week. Many requests flooding into my email box asking me to forward the video, which has been taken off of social media. But of course, as we all know, once it is on social media for even a half a second. If somebody thought it was cool, they've either screenshotted it. They took a screenshot of it, or they've recorded it on their phone. And now it is up there forever. He wrote me an email. It said, "Hey, Greg, I'm sending you this email in reference to the video about me chucking that China crap into my yard after it almost burned down my home. Just to clarify, the 6 out of 10 rating, I considered a Weber kettle 9 out of 10. 6 is also my opinion after one use. Several uses later, I had become more disgusted with it, as you can see in the video. I was even prepared to douse with a fire extinguisher. Admittedly, I had a few scotches that night. For some reason, it's like truth serum for me, and Facebook seems like a good place to vent. Not the wisest thing to do as a professional barbecuer. I value feedback on my products also. I contacted the RecTech rep that I received the grill from, and he told me that the problems didn't seem to really care about. I said if RecTech wanted to hire me for some research and development, I'd be happy to help in that regard. And his exact response was, "Nah, we're good." Left it at that. So to get through the email, he paid like a quarter from the dealer who wouldn't want to take any money anyway originally, but so he technically did purchase. And he's quite the good competitive barbecuer as well. Won the Houston Rodeo Chicken Division 2 years in a row. So appreciate Justin for writing in and clarifying a little bit in that regard. Sure, he'll be cooking this coming weekend at the Houston, so good luck to you, Justin. All right, folks, let me talk to you quickly about the newest sponsor of this show, Traeger Grills. Happy to have them aboard. Maybe you saw my man Chad Ward on the newest Dan Patrick and the Danettes commercial where they were at a golf course. Chad was cooking up some tri-tip on that Timberline 850. Then Dan got in a little swing work with some really popular swing golf coach person who I don't really know anything about golf myself. But here it is, right? Timberline is a higher end model. There's the 850 and the 1350 or 1300, I believe. And then you have a Pro line, which is a little less expensive, something maybe a little bit more for the backyard warrior that is only cooking a handful of times a month or less. And you're trying to find that good medium between economy and quality. That's the Pro Series for sure. Then you have the Timberline, as we talked about, kind of that higher end. Really unique in engineering, unique in size, unique in connectability to cloud-based services. If you're looking to step up the pellet game, this is a line of cookers that you're definitely going to want to take a look at. Capacity is outstanding on both. Performance is outstanding on both. And for the price, getting a lot of features, benefits, bells and whistles, if you will, and convenience of pellet cooking. It is real wood, so you can mix around with flavor pellets if you want to find that distinct flavor profile that fits your palate, your family's palate. You can be the king of the cul-de-sac. And, of course, if you're in competition barbecue, they're doing very well on the competition circuit as well. How can you get yours? Great question. Go to TraegerGrills.com. That's TraegerGrills.com. Look for them expositioning in many different places, not just live fire. They'll be at NBBQA, which I will be at the middle of next month as well. They will also be at Hearth Patio and Barbecue here in a couple weeks in, where is that? It is in Tennessee, I believe. Why can't I think of it? You know, where the music, Music, Tennessee. Anyway, BNA, that's what I can think. All right. Hey, we're back with Steven Raichlen right after this. Stick around, I'll be right back.
Broadcasting live from the BBQ Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the BBQ Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
All right, this portion of the show is being brought to you by Butcher Barbecue, makers of award-winning injections, marinades, rubs, seasonings, barbecue sauces, and grilling oils. Have you tried the grilling oils? Oh, come on now. All the Butcher's Barbecue products tested on the competition circuit as well as in the backyards throughout this country and worldwide. Be the pitmaster and the king of the cul-de-sac in your neighborhood. Visit ButcherBBQ.com to stock up right now. That's ButcherBBQ.com. Always trust your butcher. By the way, the name of the city that I was trying to think of, Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you. Thank you, Raleigh Smoke, for that. All right, my first guest is seen right here each third Tuesday of the month. He is a 2015 BBQ Hall of Famer. He is a TV show host. He is a barbecue cooking class instructor, a multiple-time author, perhaps the most prolific live fire cooking and grilling author that we have ever seen in our lifetime. We race to the hotline and welcome back friend of this show, Steven Raichlen, joining me. Steven, how are you, buddy?
Good, Greg. How about you?
Absolutely fabulous. And I know, unlike most times where we find you relaxing in Casa de Raichlen, you are on location this time shooting Project Fire, correct?
That's right. We just arrived at the beautiful Alisal Guest Ranch in Solvang, California. And we'll be here for the next 10 days shooting the first season of the new series.
From a high level, Steven, what is Project Fire TV shoot going to be exploring or covering versus some of the other shows that you've done in the past?
Well, Project Smoke obviously focused solely on smoking. Project Fire, we're moving back to grilling, which of course is how I started in this business and has always been an abiding interest of mine. We'll continue to do some smoking, but we're really focusing on live fire and all of its manifestations. Also, brand new this year, we are introducing a series of field trips. So we're going to be shooting on location in the Santa Ynez Valley where the Alisal Ranch is. We're shooting in Los Angeles. We'll have guests come on the show. There'll be a wine component. We'll be discussing wines and how they relate to barbecue. We'll be having guest chefs and visiting some of my all-time favorite restaurants on the West Coast.
What is the all-time favorite West Coast restaurant? Is it George's or somewhere along these lines?
We have identified 5 in Los Angeles, and I want to keep them under wraps until the show comes out. But let's just say that 3 of them have wood-burning grills. One of them has made charcoal kind of the focal point of the kitchen and almost a fetish of the dining room. You're going to see live fire used on foods you never dreamt you could grill. You're going to see the biggest pork chop in the whole of Planet Barbecue. Really excited about that aspect of the show.
How big is the biggest pork chop in pounds?
If you imagine a cross-section of a hog, and it starts at the spine, it ends in the belly, but that's one serving connected by one bone. That's what we're talking about.
Holy moly. That's a big bone.
Exactly.
That's a big chop.
Hey, this is Project Fire, man. This is barbecue bigger than life.
That's right. Here we go. When you're supporting a book with a TV show or trying to capture the essence of the book via the television show, obviously you can't do every single recipe and all that. So how do you go through and decide?
Greg, you faded there for a minute. You there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
You just faded out.
Hello.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep. Gotcha. No problem. When you're shooting this show and it's Project Fire, so we're again in support of the book, when you can't do every single recipe, of course, how do you go through and decide these are the ones that we're going to show on television that you feel they're kind of best giving the best representation of the work?
That is, I'm glad you asked that question because that is the single hardest thing about the show is deciding what to keep and what not to do. Now, happily, we plan for this to be a many-season series, so whatever I didn't get to this year will fit in next year. But it's a fairly complex formula. I'm theming the shows. The episodes are built on themes. One theme is on Southern California. One theme is on grilling from a vineyard. One theme is on seafood. We've got a show called Barbecue 24/7, which starts with breakfast and ends with a late-night snack. So to some extent, the themes of the show dictate which recipes I'm going to use. But, there's also, if you've watched Project Smoke, that I try and demonstrate as many different grills and smokers as possible. So you've got to pick the right dishes to match up for the right cookers, to match up for the right kind of fuel. Ideally, you want a meal that sort of makes sense and would be something pleasant to eat. Plus, we've got to mesh with the, our guests and with the field pieces. So the short answer to your question is I make lists, I scratch them out. I make more lists, I scratch them out, and it's a real intricate puzzle to come up with the final roster.
Ultimately, is it your call what makes it, or do you submit whatever your final idea is and then it gets passed up to somebody else that decides what's going to be cooked?
No, actually, the buck stops here. However, I will say that this is a collaborative effort. And if you've watched the show, I mean, Chris, our chef, Nora, our stylist, Matt, our producer. So, obviously, we're all discussing the choices. It makes sense, and Chris has to worry about which shipments are going to come in, and can he get the spiny lobsters on such and such a day. So that enters into it, but the final choice resides with me.
Steven Raichlen joining me here on the show, BBQBible.com. His website, of course, is what's the website for the television show? Is it different than, is it projectfire.org or .com or something like that?
Yeah, I imagine it would be Project Fire. We haven't set up the website yet. The show's going to launch Memorial Day weekend, so we still have a little bit of time for that. But, you can find out details on BBQBible.com.
When you talk about Southern California barbecue, that is inherently, as you would think of brisket or sausage with Texas, pork with the Carolinas, tri-tip comes to mind when you talk about that Southern California style of barbecue. If that even, I guess, people would decide to argue if it's barbecue or not. I think it is, because that's kind of that region or what that area is known for. Do you do kind of that prototypical tri-tip recipe with the red oak and the pinquito beans and all that good stuff?
Tri-tip will be on the show. We'll also do grilled artichokes, which are a slightly lesser known, very much equally a part of the grilling of this part of California.
Artichokes are?
Artichoke, well, sure. Gilmore, wow. 90% of the America's artichokes come from Gilmore, California, wow. Which is very close to here. And artichokes, it's funny. I was working on my scripts and my intros today, and I was sort of trying to remember. Well, the first time I had grilled artichoke was at Walt's Wharf in Seal Beach, California. But then I had it shortly thereafter in the Napa Valley. And I've had it, in the grilled artichokes in Los Angeles. So, maybe one of those great ideas that sprang up in many places at once.
Steven, when the show concludes on television, have you found that, each season there's already talks for another season, or is it an instance where the season has to come to a close first, certain things are evaluated, and then there is talk of doing something else? How does the business end work? Steven?
Yes, I'm here. I don't know if you heard that, but I heard you.
Okay. No, yeah, you're fading out just a little bit.
Yeah, we're in a pretty remote area. It's gorgeous if you, the ranch is in the middle of, it's a 10,000 acre horse ranch, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. So the internet and cell service are a little spotty. But anyway, to answer your question, yes, we're already thinking about season 2.
Oh, great. All right. So yeah. From a obviously there's a financial portion that has to be done here to get these shows on television. Do you have like does the TV station or whoever, the production company, go out and solicit sponsors? Is that something that you are actively and personally taking a responsibility in and trying to press that? How does that portion work?
It's a team effort. And, some of our team have expertise in some fields. I have expertise in other fields. But, if you remember from Project Smoke, we show those behind-the-scenes shots in between the recipes where you see the crew working together. That was very deliberate, because a lot of shows you watch, you get the impression that there's one guy or gal on the set, and that's all there is to the TV show. But there are 20 people working here day and night for months to make this show happen. And that's true of fundraising. It's true of the production. It's true of everything that happens with the show.
Stephen, how do you view yourself as a host now as you enter in and starting to shoot Project Fire versus that guy that was on PBS doing Barbecue University, kind of where actually I was first introduced to Steven Raichlen and that whole deal when you were shooting at the Greenbrier back in the day? How do you compare and contrast you as a host then and now?
Well, back then I was absolutely terrified. It was a very difficult, awful experience, and the minute the cameras went on, I froze up. And now, I've done it enough to I feel more comfortable in front of the camera. I sort of understand more how the show goes together. I mean, it's even a funny little thing that when I'm cutting or tying or seasoning, I'm thinking about how the camera's going to follow my hand. So we have something that we call snaking, where if you start at the top and you come across the row, then you snake back to the second row, then you snake to the third row. And to do that, for that camera that's following your fingers very closely, to make it easy for them to do their shot. I would say that, with practice, you get a lot more comfortable. For me, it was very unnatural to be in front of a camera. Another difference is that I'm first and foremost a writer, and for many years, writing books is how I communicated my experiences about barbecue. And talking to a camera is very different than writing. Now, I have to kind of stop thinking like a writer and start thinking like a TV host. So that's kind of been a piece of it. With the new show, I'm very excited about getting out in the field now. I had some great experience with this when I was in Italy doing the Italian show, which, by the way, if any of your listeners are in Italy, called Steven Raichlen Grills Italy, and it starts airing on March 6th. And that show had about half the show as a segment in the field. So that was a whole new set of skills and challenges for me, which I must say I love. I love being in the field doing those kinds of segments. So I'm looking forward to introducing that into the new show.
Steven Raichlen joining me here on the show, getting ready to shoot the new show and /season, Project Fire. It was Project Smoke last year. It's going to be Project Fire this year. And again, that's starting Memorial Day weekend, right, Steven?
That's right.
All right, Memorial Day weekend. So stay tuned and check your local listings for that. Obviously, we'll pump it up here as the months go on. But, Steven, always appreciate the time. Thanks so much for doing it.
Greg, you do such a great job, man. All of us in the barbecue community, thank you for your efforts and your great job.
All right, I appreciate you saying that. There he is, Steven Raichlen. Come on. I got to be honest, that connection was a little brutal.
The Traeger Grills hotline.
Yeah, a little brutal. Had to dump out of that early. Yeah, no fault of Steven's, of course. When you are on I think, did he say 10,000 acre horse farm? In the middle of nowhere, if you're describing where you are to me, if the phone connection, the worst thing that has happened to not only internet-based shows and terrestrial radio shows and satellite radio shows is what? What? The cell phone. Oh, dear. It is both the best thing that has ever happened as far as a technological advancement. It is also the worst thing that has happened in regards of technical advancement, specifically as it relates to these kind of shows. You got somebody with a bad phone connection, and of course, they don't want to have a bad phone connection. I understand that. I get it. If you're describing where you're at as being in the middle of nowhere on a however many 1,000-acre horse farm, and that the internet and cell phone reception isn't that good, yeah. Well, if I can't make out 50% of what you're saying, things aren't going very well. So we'll dump out. And I had a bunch of great questions that I will reline up for Steven when he gets back into a little bit better cell phone and or internet coverage, but I appreciate him taking time out before they start the shooting of this show. Project Fire. Again, it was Project Smoke for 2 seasons, I believe. He's already been green-lighted for a 2nd season of Project Fire. And that's really, you know, kind of what I'm interested in. When you have a cookbook and you have so many different recipes, different ways of doing things, how are you, bringing a fresh approach to it? Do you have to bring a fresh approach to it? Will people just constantly watch? If Barbecue University at the Greenbrier was on television over this weekend and I had nothing to do, like sports, because I have that going this weekend, I would sit down and watch all of the episodes from front to back. If somebody sent me all of the seasons of Barbecue University with Steven Raichlen, I would sit there and watch them over and over again. I don't know why. I just like doing it. So when you have a recipe book, how do you go through and pull out what's probably going to end up, I don't know if it's an 8-week or a 10-week show run for that Project Fire. But how do you pull out those, 24 recipes? He usually does 2 or 3 each show. Maybe a side dish, a couple main dishes, some fruit, things like this. I remember back in the day on Barbecue University when he did huli chicken on the spit. He was just like glazing it with that huli sauce. I was like, wow, this guy is a genius. And he said he was scared to death on television. I had no idea. So, Steven, if you're listening, and I think I can speak for the majority of us who have never been on television, if the camera was turned on us, we would be pooping ourselves, number one. So we're right there with you. But secondly, and perhaps more importantly, from my perspective, I had no idea that you were nervous whatsoever. Backyard Barbecue Show saying, if you're not watching the live feed, you were missing out on, I believe that image was from Primal Grill. He's got that big ranch kettle in the back. Kinger's saying, hey, I'm eyeing that Weber kettle ranch in the back, that ranch kettle in the back. Me too. I need one of those. He's also saying that Steven recipes are easy. So that's the key. That was one of my main great, important, well thought out, prepared questions that I was going to be asking him, which is this. Do you think you could do chicken or ribs and pork butt and brisket in varying ways season after season, but really just like those 4 or 5 things and keep doing that? Would eventually you become boring to the audience, or do you think people would tune in? Like, if you think like me, I think you could just watch it. If you vary a little bit here and there, you could probably be on for 5 or 10 years. Or do you constantly need to push the envelope when it comes to TV in order to keep the interest? That's the question that I wanted to ask. We'll ask him next month. By the way, Sam, the cooking guy, is opening up a new taco restaurant at some point soon in the Southern California area. And we're going to be talking to him pretty soon in the next handful of weeks. How about that? Planning, thinking, and anxiety are his 3 keys right now. No doubt. Anything about opening a restaurant really gets me nervous. Easy to say. Not only somewhat nervous, but really nervous. For all you people that are out there that find the testicular fortitude to actually go out and open a restaurant, congratulations to you for doing that. That is tough stuff. I was talking about raw hamburger meat last week. Tiger burgers or tiger meat sandwiches. And I got an email from SM Lebs on the emails entitled Raw Hamburger Meat. Says, Greg, my grandmother started with me eating raw hamburger in the 70s. I love it with salt. What? Come on, SM Lebs. Are you really eating raw hamburger meat? Your grandmother was giving you raw hamburger meat in the 70s? your grandmother up to? SM Lebs? Wow. I don't think I want to take part in that, to be honest. All right, folks, let me talk to you quickly about the Barbecue Guru. They are always believing in the fact that outdoor cooking should be easy. Because it can be, especially with what? The Monolith Barbecue Guru Edition Grill. The Monolith is the world's first temperature-controlled smoker with a built-in power draft fan. This means smarter control, greater freedom with automatic pit temperature control. Easily choose your cooking time and temperature and let the Monolith do all the work of a sous chef or a best friend barbecue pitmaster. With minimal effort, you now have an oven-like precision at the grill and can serve the tastiest, juiciest meals each and every time. It's giving you a consistency that you really can't get anywhere else. Now, make a note of this. If you are a fan of the Barbecue Guru, if you have a Barbecue Guru controller already, then you don't even need to buy a controller when you purchase the Monolith Grill. It has the built-in power draft fan, as it just mentioned. You get a whole bunch of really cool accessories, but you take the controller that you have, you hook it up to the fan, you are literally off and running. You don't have to go out and buy the latest, greatest controller. Now, if you want to, might I recommend the CyberQ Cloud controller? Let you hook up to Wi-Fi, let you start graphing and charting and archiving all these cooks. Check in wherever you want to see how everything's going. That's the high-end tech right there. However, if you have a controller already, just hook it up to the fan and you are off and running. Visit the website BBQ Guru, that's G-U-R-U, bbqguru.com, or call them 800-288-GURU. That's 800-288-GURU. They will answer all of your questions. The Barbecue Guru continues to be a breakthrough in barbecue technology. We're back right after this with Paul Schatte.
Ready to get on the air? Call 216-220-0966. Now, let's get back to the LeBron James of barbecue talk. Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by cookinpellets.com. Your number one source for quality wood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com for more information, or you can purchase there as well. If you would prefer to buy from the biggest online retailer in the world, you can go to amazon.com, search Cookin' Pellets, C-O-O-K-I-N, cookinpellets.com. You can purchase there as well. Don't forget, go to cookinpellets.com and download their free app. You can be alerted to great shipping rates when they happen, also recipes, video links, all the good stuff. My good friends over at cookinpellets.com. All right, one of the biggest barbecue competitions during the course of the year, it's so unprofessional, takes place this coming weekend in Houston, Texas. My next guest will be competing in that event once again. Here to talk about it, the vice president of Head Country Rubs and Sauces. Let's go ahead and race back to the Traeger Grills hotline and welcome friend of the show, Paul Schatte. Paul, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Greg. I'm doing just fine. And you?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous, Paul. Appreciate you asking. And, of course, appreciate you making time for the show, as always. So, big weekend coming up, right? We have the Houston Livestock and Rodeo / barbecue event coming up. Certainly one of the biggest ones in Texas. But I contend that over the last handful of years, if not a little bit more, this is becoming one of those events that everyone, regardless of sanctioning body, is looking to shoot for and win. Have you noticed yourself kind of a rise or a uptick in popularity of this event?
Oh, for sure, Greg. You know, this event is very popular, and people have been, you know, striving to be there for years. And I was on a waiting list for 15 years to get in, and so it's a prestigious event to cook in. That's for sure.
How do you get in, Paul? Do you have to just sign up on a waiting list and hope that you make it through your days before you miss out, or do you have to spend money somewhere and ask for a favor? How does it work?
It's a combination of things. Obviously you have to rub shoulders with somebody you know, and that's how I got in years ago with I grew up in Houston and got to know some people that competed in the contest that were old high school friends. And one thing led to another, and then with the use of Head Country barbecue sauce and seasoning, I got on board, and that's where the relationship started.
Now, you are the pit master of Head Country competition barbecue team, but if I'm not mistaken, you're kind of the head cook for a different named team for this event.
I am. Interestingly enough, Greg, I met some guys over 15 years ago with Wild Game Crew, and that's how I'm on that team now, and got associated with those people a long time ago, donating barbecue sauce and seasoning, but then started competing with them, and this will be my 4th year. And last year we did real well. We ended up 3rd in ribs and 5th overall. So it's just camaraderie, friendship, and having a good time.
When you are pitmaster of Paul Schatte's Head Country team, you're running a program one way. When you are aligned with a different team, but one you have been cooking for with a number of years, does the program change at all, or how do you compare and contrast cooking as the head pitmaster for your team, Paul, and then for somebody else's or a different team?
Greg, I take my same concept whether I'm cooking under Head Country or with somebody else, and I just have a good time teaching people, enjoying the camaraderie, whether we win or not. I always like to win, but it's just a lot of fun. And so I bring the same concept, and I will this weekend with the people that I'm cooking with, and we'll have a good time.
Paul Schatte joining me here on the show. Headcountry.com. If you want to check it out, if you've never had their rubs or sauces, I highly recommend you get over there and buy it all out. Paul, this is a non-sanctioned event. If you're any type of a fan of competition barbecue, regardless, there are some sanctioning bodies out there where you have to be certified judge, or you're cooking and turning in this many pieces or that many pieces. How does the Houston Livestock and Rodeo Barbecue event transpire as far as rules and judging and all this stuff?
Well, it's changed a little bit this year, Greg, in the fact that it's become more of a IBCA Texas-style contest, in that if you have one space up to 4 spaces, which is the most you can have, you're going to turn in 3 meats. Chicken, ribs, brisket. And so it's kind of even and leveled out the playing field. And this is the first year in the years that Houston has done this contest that it's going to be a little bit different. And it'll be fun. It'll be interesting, and you're going to have to be on your game to hit all 3 categories top notch, because that's what your score is going to be based off of. Not just one meat, but all 3 combined.
So if you have one spot, you are required to then cook all 3 of the meats, or do you have to have 3 spots in order to be able to turn in all 3?
No. If you have one spot, you can turn in 3. That's what's different than in the past. So it's a different contest now than it has been since the Houston Rodeo has been involved.
So what's your thought on that, Paul? I mean, I know you're a guy that kind of likes history and how things have happened and maybe aren't anxious for a change, but you're also a progressive guy. You're in business, so you know things have to evolve in order to continue to grow and continue to be viable. Do you like the new setup? What's your thought on that?
Oh, I like it a whole bunch. I like the way they've done it. It's a true Texas IBCA contest, and I like what they've done.
Last year, as you said, you were top 3 in ribs, or you were a finalist in ribs. What do you think the key to a good Houston livestock and rodeo rib is?
Oh, man. Greg, that's kind of a tough question, but, just consistency and go to the game with what you have done. Don't change anything, and just enjoy what you're doing, and just stay with the program. And that's what I did. I've done that rib for a long time, and God bless me, and I ended up 3rd overall in ribs and 5th, or 3rd in ribs and 5th overall. And ribs really knocked it out of the park last year in Houston, because there was 1st, 2nd, and 5th in ribs were the top 5.
From a flavor profile standpoint, Paul, do you find that Texas is a little bit more of a savory type of a profile, or in this regard, will they like a bit of a sweeter rib?
I would say sweet, Greg. A little sweeter. That would be my profile.
There's some spots in Texas this weekend, Paul, that are expecting some fairly heavy weather, rain, of course. Are you prepping for that? And I guess the bigger question, better question would be, in general, how do you contend with weather issues when you are cooking? Are you a guy that likes to look at the forecast many days out so you can be totally prepared, or you just kind of show up and wing it and deal with whatever shows up?
Well, I don't wing it, that's for sure. Never do. But if I would have to pick a climate or weather profile, I like rain. I just enjoy what the humidity and dampness brings to the overall cooking process. And quite honestly, it might cut a few people out of the mix, But on the other hand, I really enjoy, again, the humidity and what that brings to the moisture of the meat. So I'm looking forward to a little cloudy, a little drizzly, a little rain down in Houston this weekend.
Do you cook on the same barbecue pit that you would be competing on as Head Country, or do you have a different one with the Wild Game crew?
No, I've got my same pit. I don't waver from what I'm cooking on, whether I'm cooking under Head Country or somebody else. And Wild Game crew is some really good friends, and they support the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo and what they're after. And they asked me to come compete with them a number of years ago, and that's why I'm there. So I'm looking forward to taking my Jambo pit down there tomorrow and having a good time.
Paul, let me switch it up here just for a second. And last question, and I appreciate the time as always. I actually got this one via Facebook from Paul saying, "Hey, Greg, could you ask Paul from Head Country if there are ever plans to distribute into the Great White North of Canada? We love their sauces, but we can only bring so many bottles back at a time when we visit south of the border. So what do you think? Any chance of getting into Canada, or is it available up there and we just don't know it?"
We do have some limited distribution in Canada through, some distributors. So I would ask them to contact me through my email, which is Schatte, @headcountry.com, and I'll put them in touch with our Canadian distributors. But yes, we are expanding, and Greg, maybe at another time we can talk about international competition, international experience with barbecue. Talking to Carolyn Wells just recently at KCBS, international barbecue competition is huge, and those people are eager to know about what we do here in the United States. So I would like to expand on that at another time with you.
Well, we're coming up on the first quarter of the year, kind of coming to an end from a business standpoint at Hen Country. Everything is good on your end?
Oh, yeah. Doing well. Head Country, if you look at the top 50 barbecue sauce manufacturers in the United States, we rank number 8. And we're proud of that, and look forward to being whatever number higher we can get, But, Greg, it's always a great thing to be on Barbecue Central and talk about the great thing about barbecuing.
You can go to headcountry.com and check out the sauces and the spices. We're talking with Paul Schatte. He's going to be doing his best with the Wild Gang crew to take it all in Houston this coming weekend. And if he does, by the way, he doesn't know it yet, he's going to be back on the show recapping the big win. So show karma headed your way, Paul. Appreciate the time as always, my man. Thanks so much for doing it.
All right, Greg. Take care.
You got it. There he is, Paul Schatte from Head Country.
All guests appear via the Traeger Grills hotline. Yummy.
And that website is headcountry.com, just like it sounds, HEAD. And if you have never had Head Country sauce, I mean, are you kidding me? You are doing yourself one of the larger disservices you could possibly do to yourself. Many different flavors. The apple habanero is raging across backyards and cul-de-sacs here in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city. I suggest you get over there and try it. Of course, the original is outstanding as well. Hey, folks, Big Papa Smokers is the one-stop online shop for all things barbecue. Their curated selection of only the best outdoor cooking and grilling supplies will get you on the path to better barbecue results in no time. Everything at BigPapaSmokers.com has been Pitmaster approved by Sterling Big Papa Ball himself. From award-winning rubs and sauces to the American-made grills and smokers, Big Papa Smokers has something for every type of outdoor cook. Whether you are a backyard hack like me or competition pro, we got something for you. How about their championship rubs and seasonings, popular flavors like Sweet Money, Cattle Prod, Cash Cow, all proven winners on the competition circuit and in the backyard. Big Papa Smokers offers 13 perfectly balanced flavors that will transform ordinary meals into extraordinary. Whether you're cooking to impress judges or grilling for family and friends, Big Papa Smokers does not disappoint when it comes to the rubs and the seasonings. Pick up a bottle at BigPapaSmokers.com. Looking to improve that competition flavor profile, Big Papa Smokers has combined with Simply Marvelous Barbecue to form what is known as the West Coast offense. How about sauces? Sure. They own Granny's barbecue sauce. It's an award-winning barbecue sauce. Look for the new go-to barbecue sauce that will please everyone. Granny's traditional yet powerful flavor reminds us why we fell in love with barbecue in the first place. You can find Granny sauce and other top-rated barbecue sauces at BigPopSmokers.com. And aside from their premium selection of rubs and sauces, they also offer the very best pellet and charcoal and wood cookers available today. Looking for a versatile smoker, easy to use? Check out the Mac 2-Star Pellet Grill. Big Papa Smokers is the exclusive Mac dealer and even offers special packages. If you're not a fan of the pellet cookers, trust the Old Hickory Ace BP because it's the one that Big Papa trusts on his competition trailer. And if you're a backyard person like me looking for a durable and versatile grill that will last forever, the M Grill from Texas is just what you need. They're built like tanks. It's clear that Big Papa's is the place to go for all things barbecue. Every product featured on their website has been hand-selected to help you barbecue better. Boost your skills with the help of Big Papa Smokers, the #1 online barbecue store. Call them at 828-0727. That's 877-828-0727, or shop their website, bigpapasmokers.com. That's bigpapasmokers.com. All right, we're going to wrap the first hour as we come back. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Networks.
Big name interviews, advice on cooking brisket and ribs, and the only host willing to share his honest opinion on all things important in the world of barbecue. It's the Barbecue Central Show.
Thanks again to Paul Schatte for joining me last segment. Paul's a beauty, man. He is a legend, both from a pitmaster's side and business side as well. Maybe you didn't hear him say that Head Country, top 8 barbecue sauce out of all barbecue sauces. Hey there, friend. Take a stroll down your neighborhood grocery store barbecue and grilling aisle. There's aisles these days. Remember, like 5-6 years ago, you might have like a quarter of an aisle, maybe. You go to Giant Eagle in Cleveland, Ohio right now, and you have a solid aisle of sauces and spices and rubs and injections and accoutrement. It's legitimate business right now, folks. Do you see all those barbecue sauces? A veritable cornucopia of different manufacturers and kinds and flavors and varying degrees of liquid smoke. Head Country is top 8. Oh, wow. That's crazy. Their website, by the way, is headcountry.com. If you haven't checked out the sauce, highly recommend it. Paul Schatte has a great chance at winning. You know who else has a great chance at... You know who else has a great chance at winning? Our Texas embedded correspondent, Doug Scheiding. Doug, who are you ringering for this weekend? Who paid the Doug Scheiding high-dollar hitman tab to bring you in? Doug Scheiding, a world championship pitmaster, award-winning, by the way. So that'll be coming up this weekend. Again, the Smithfield Guinea Pig Matt Dalton Memorial will be taking place in California this weekend. Good luck to everybody competing there. Obviously, the Houston Livestock Rodeo, a number of other competitions that will be taking place this weekend. Those are two notables. Darren Worth was the one that won it last year. That was kind of like the send-off one that he's kind of won everything after that. Except for Memphis in May, right? Still hasn't won Memphis in May. We're going to be following up on that with him. That's literally the last thing. He's won everything else. That's what's left to win for Darren Worth and Sherry Worth. Will that be next on the hit list for them? I guess we'll see. I have a great story to tell you about brisket and why it is good and healthy for you. I don't know if we'll get to that this week or not. I've also been dying to get to my pork belly cubes. I'm sorry, my swine cubes. Not pork belly burnt ends, my swine cube cook that I did now probably well over 2 months ago. Maybe it hasn't been that long. Maybe it has. I got pictures. I got a whole situation as far as that's concerned that I want to talk to you about. But I digress. We'll step away and get ready for the second hour. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. I'll be right back.
This is Greg Rempe, host of the Barbecue Central radio show, and you are listening to BCRN, all barbecue and grilling all the time. Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to. Hit me!
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead and he's in the crackle.
Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
He ate 2 feet or wiener.
Oh, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seeds.
We have top men working on it right now.
All right, just like that, we are into the second hour. Hello. An outstanding decision on your part, Centralites. You have found the Barbecue Central show. If you missed the first hour, what happened? What? What are you doing? There couldn't possibly be anything more important than taking in this show as it is transacting live. However, let me tell you this. If you somehow missed the first hour or you missed my interview, although a little abridged, with Steven Raichlen or Paul Schatte, never fear. The show is constantly being recorded as it's happening live. That's why we do a podcast. So you can go to iTunes, you can go to Google Play, you can go to all of the varying podcast platforms and subscribe to the show. Typically, there's a search bar somewhere, and you can just type in the BBQ Central. That's usually enough, depending on what platform you're on, to pull up the show. And once you see it there with the grill and the orange and black colors and all that stuff, just hit subscribe, and when there's new content added to the podcast feed, you will be alerted right on your handheld device. Now, the easier way to do that is visit my website, thebbqcentralshow.com, and then add /subscribe. Or you can just go to the main website and click on the subscribe button at the top right of the navigation. And then click your particular platform device. It will give you the download link. Easy to do. You can even subscribe to the podcast via email. You don't even need a smart device as long as you have a computer or a netbook or a Chromebook or a tablet. You can visit the website and sign up through email. Of course, you do have to have an email address. I am asking for a monicum of technical savvy on your part, the listener. But everybody has an email address right now, right? You can even go to the library if you don't have a computer, but you have an email address, and take in the show once a week that way. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible to consume this show at your convenience. Live is the best way. But if it's got to be podcast, then it has to be podcast. That's why I do it. Still to come on the show, Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly Barbecue. After that, Brad Taylor. Email from a listener. Hi, Greg. I just wanted to correct something in your Davy Crockett grill read. Oh, boy. Love how this is starting out. Let me tell you something. If you're starting out an email to me with, I just wanted to correct something, and you're pointing it in my direction, there's a pretty good chance we might be at odds right off the bat. However, I'm working on sensitivity, so I digress. You say that these can run off your vehicle's inverter. This isn't factually accurate. This particular model actually runs on 12 volts. It plugs directly into a cigarette lighter, therefore not needing an inverter. It's only when you use the grill on 120 volt that a converter is required. Anyway, not a huge deal, but I've heard you say that it needs an inverter for the car for a few weeks now. Figured it was worth pointing out. Okay, well, first of all, thank you for pointing out the folly in my ways. In my defense, I would just like to say that I have been calling it an inverter incorrectly the last couple weeks. And I know in my head that inverter is wrong, and I just should not say it, but I do. It's bad on my part to say it. I get it. It's not right. It's not factually accurate. I don't know why I said inverter. Darn it. Because I know it's wrong. But now we're going to start pointing out one thing that's factually inaccurate about your paragraph, sir. And it is this. The part of the paragraph that says, this particular model actually runs on 12 volts. That's correct. It plugs directly into your cigarette lighter. I don't think they have those anymore. That's not factually accurate. It's just a 12 volt outlet or plug. Who smokes anymore? Somebody smoking cigarettes in a car? I don't think they have those anymore. Unless you're driving like a 1982 Datsun B210, which is a classic. Then you might have a cigarette lighter. But if it's anything in the last 10 years, there's no cigarette lighter in there. It's just a 12 volt outlet. That's factually correct. He goes on, I also have a couple questions regarding the larger Green Mountain Grill. Would you say that one imparts any more smoke flavor than the other? I've been wondering if the Jim Bowie would put out a little less smoke at a given temp than the Daniel Boone. Have you noticed the difference between the two? I plan on buying one. It will be the Jim Bowie if it puts out the same level of smoke as the Daniel Boone. If not, I'll buy the smaller Daniel Boone. I love the Davy Crockett. The Davy Crockett is a cooker that I purchased for convenience for when I don't have time to cook full-flavored barbecue on my stick burner. It sure does a nice job, though. Only thing that I really don't like is the Wi-Fi. It just isn't dependable. Not in point-to-point even. Have you noticed any problems with yours? Green Mountain Grill replaced the controller under warranty, and it's actually gotten a little worse. I gave up on that feature. That said, it is a cooker. Cooking meat is the important part. Laugh out loud. So let me answer some questions there. I have both of those cookers. I have not noticed one cooker producing more smoke than the other. I have not had the same Wi-Fi issues that you have had, so maybe I'm lucky. But I typically don't go for the Wi-Fi because I just like kind of being around it and making sure everything's going okay versus depending on Wi-Fi. Not saying that anybody's depending on Wi-Fi. I get it's a great feature, but I don't notice more or less smoke being put up by the Jim Bowie or the Daniel Boone, so I think you're safe for whichever one you want. I always recommend going bigger, so Jim Bowie would be my recommendation, but it's certainly up to you. In closing, I just want you to know how much I get out of your show. Dude, you are a great service to the barbecue community. Thank you. I'm just a backyarder. So am I, by the way. But I follow all the competition stuff. I live vicariously, I guess. I can't afford to compete anyway. Plus, I really don't like the direction the competition barbecue seems to be headed. I'm in Oregon, so there is only one KCBS competition in my town. Maybe I'll try it someday. Anyway, thanks again. Appreciate that email, man. I know, busting a little bit of hump there on the top. I'm just having a little fun. As I know, he wasn't going out of his way to call me a dope on the inverter comment, which again, in my defense, I know was wrong. I just happened to know it was wrong and continue to say it. That's my faults. No names. John Dawson weighing in with an email. Here we go. It's modicum, not monicum. Get out of here. What is this? Critique me? I'm speaking for 120 minutes straight, except for about add 10 seconds worth of break in between reads? And you're going to tell me about monicum or modicum? Get out of here. Come on. Monicum. It's a non-alum of advice I want to give you. Just a bit. A non-alum. Not too much. I don't want to get crazy. Email from Jeffrey. Hey, Greg, I'm listening to the show and podcast and heard Meathead's idea of a special edition. That idea totally rocks. A whole show or special edition show showcasing Meathead and maybe or maybe not Dr. Greg Blonder doing nothing but Facebook questions and email questions or whatever comes to mind. Just one humble man's opinion. Show's great as always. Jeff Stone. You can find him at Grandpa's Pride Barbecue. Thank you, Jeffrey. I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent. A tangent, you see? But Mr. Stone has one of my favorite first names ever, Jeffrey. Because, as we all know, my favorite female on Food Network is who? Ina Garten, that's right. And her husband is named Jeffrey. Because she loves to cook for Jeffrey and all of his friends at any point in the Hamptons, because that's where she hangs. Her mansion is in the Hamptons, kicking it with the likes of Jay-Z, H. Stern, B. Flay. I think Michael Simon's up and around there too. Everybody's kicking in the Hamptons. I'm going to get there. Don't worry about that. Daniel Vaughn coming up next. Cook Shack manufactures smoker ovens for barbecue lovers with any amount of experience, whether you barbecue in the backyard, on the competition circuit, or in a 5-star dining facility. Cook Shack has a unit that will do the job, and with a full line of barbecue sauces, spices, pellets, and wood chunks, it's the perfect one-stop shop. Cook Shack strives to be your barbecue resource center by offering cooking classes, online recipes, how-to videos, 2 blogs, Smokin' Grilling 101s, and a video cooking classroom. Check out their website at cookshack.com or follow them on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Pinterest, Google+. Get advice and share your passion for barbecue on their world-class barbecue forum. They still have one of those. Cook Shack pellet-fired smokers are the choice of champions because they were designed by a champion, Ed Fast Eddie Morin, who, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be on the show in maybe 1 or 2 weeks' time. So stay tuned for Fast Eddie. The FEC 100, PG 1000, always customer favorites. The PG 1000 can double as a smoker and a grill. Low and slow, hot and fast, the pellet grill line gives you the most for your money. Cook Shack residential electric smokers are the #1 smoker in the industry. High quality means high durability and versatility. Anything you can cook in your oven, you can make in a Cook Shack. Passion and dedication drives Cook Shack's manufacturing, with quality always being at the forefront. Get the best in barbecue since 1962. Call this number, 800-423-0698. That's 800-423-0698, or visit the website cookshack.com. That's cookshack.com. John Dawson re-weighing in. Dude, I said no names, please. Oh, rule number 1 violated. You have one job: to speak properly. I only have a totalum of responsibilities, and I'm not meeting those. It is a gargantuous titanicism of irrespectability. Almost got that out. All right, we are back with Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly Barbecue Editor, right after this. Stick around, I'll be right back.
The only show giving you a monthly visit from a doctor of barbecue. A man actually named Meathead. The author of a barbecue Bible, bloggers, reviewers, competitors, and manufacturers by the dozens. It's the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, championship pitmasters are winning with Smithfield. You can too. Commit to cooking with Smithfield this 2018 barbecue season, and you will receive smokin' swag just for participating. Only a few requirements. Sign up, pay a small $25 shipping fee, and you have to be a member of one of the barbecue sport's major sanctioning bodies. Be sure to come back and track your first place finishes in pork and ribs and win great prizes through the Walk-In with Smithfield incentive program. Once a Smithfield committed cook, show us your Smithfield hashtag show us your Smithfield on Facebook and on the Instagrams as well. Don't forget that this is limited to 500 cooks to sign up. So again, $25, but more importantly, you do have to be a member of a barbecue sport sanctioning body in order to do that. All right, my first guest in the second hour was the very first full-time barbecue editor for a magazine in this here country. You also see him on this show from time to time, giving his thoughts on the world and state of barbecue. In fact, we have recently agreed to try and do a once-a-quarter meeting in 2018. So let's go ahead and race to the Traeger Grill hotline and welcome back barbecue editor for Texas Monthly Magazine, Daniel Vaughn, joining me. What's up, Buckeye?
How's it going?
I'm doing absolutely fabulous. You are a Buckeye, right?
All right.
Come on.
Yes, I am definitely a Buckeye, originally from Ohio. Been in Texas now for 17 years.
What's the biggest difference?
What's the biggest difference? Well, I mean, in Ohio, it's cold all winter, and in Dallas during the winter, you never know what the temperature is going to be when you wake up in the morning.
My man, today, 68 degrees, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city. Not lying.
Yeah, I saw the Indians posted that they're in spring training now, and that it's colder at spring training than it is in Cleveland.
That's right. It happens every once in a while. We're talking with Daniel Vaughn here from Texas Monthly. Daniel, last time we spoke, we kind of talked a little bit about a golden age of barbecue. So are we still headlong in that era in your estimation?
Yeah, there's certainly nothing that's happened to dispute that. There was just here last week, the James Beard Foundation came out with some nominations for chefs and made quite a splash in the name of pitmasters.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2015, Aaron Franklin became the first pitmaster who was named best chef in the James Beard Award Foundation Awards. Now, that was the first one to even be nominated.
Right.
And here, just last week, they named all their semifinalists this year. And we've got whole hog pitmasters from South Carolina and North Carolina, and Rodney Scott of Rodney Scott's Barbecue in Charleston, Samuel Jones of Sam Jones Barbecue in Winterville, North Carolina, and then Tootsie Tomanetz of Snow's Barbecue in Lexington, Texas. A first-time nominee at 82 years old. She's still going strong in Lexington, Texas there at Snow's Barbecue, which Texas Monthly last year named best barbecue in all of Texas. So it's certainly a nomination we agree with.
You wrote a great article last week kind of detailing out that specific one. I mean, you did mention everybody else, but you were specifically talking about Tootsie. And, in my estimation, I don't know her personally. She's never been on the show, but I try and follow barbecue as much as I can outside of the competition world. And in my opinion, a true gem of the barbecue industry, maybe even like the best gem ever, that being Tootsie. She was announced as that James Beard semifinalist, as you mentioned. And the funny thing is you're the one breaking the news to her via phone call, right?
Right. Well, I was I was in the airport at the time, waiting on a flight, but I knew that the news was going to come out. I knew about the time that it was going to be released. And so I called her just minutes after the release. I had to kind of explained to her what the James Beard Foundation was and what the award meant. Aaron Franklin, he won the award, like I said. He was also the previous to Snows, he was the #1 Texas Monthly barbecue joint. So when Snows was named #1, he very graciously went out to Snows to give Tootsie some flowers to tell her congratulations. So I told Tootsie that this was an award that Aaron Franklin had won, and it was a really big deal. So that kind of perked her ears up, and then she asked me a few more questions about it, but basically was just ready to get back to work. I mean, she was at her day job. She works at Snows, which is it's only open on Saturdays. So she was at an elementary school doing maintenance, which is where she works every other day of the week. When I called her, and she said, basically, well, she understood that this was a big award after I explained it to her, but she, the name of the James Beard Foundation didn't really mean a whole lot to her, so she basically signed off with, I'll try to get excited about this.
I'll work at that the rest of the day here while I'm messing around with maintenance and little ankle biters, right?
Right, exactly. So I'm guessing she had more conversations that day that with Carrie Bexley, the owner at Snows, and probably a few more folks congratulating her that maybe brought it home just how meaningful that nomination was.
Do you have any idea how they go about from a picking standpoint or what benchmarks they're using in order to get these nominations out?
I don't. So I know that Pat Sharp, who is our food editor at Texas Monthly, I know she's on the committee, but I don't know. And I know a few other people who are on the committee. It's a rather large committee. But I don't really know what sort of arguments they have back and forth, or they're looking for people who really are making a mark, and people who are at the best at their game. I think just since with 3 pitmasters this year being semifinalists, with Aaron Franklin winning it in 2015, there's a definite shift towards categories that might not have been considered, for the elevated status of a James Beard Award. It's usually been reserved for like white tablecloth chefs and, just basically for fancy places. And they really reserved their America's Classics Award. That was the award that they handed out to, places like burger joints or barbecue joints or, taco houses, places like that. So, it really shows the fact that there's 3 pitmasters this year really does show a shift in their attitude towards what these people really mean to the culinary world.
Daniel Vaughn joining me here on the show. TMBBQ.com is his website. Definitely worth the read each and every day, or however often you can get to that. From a pitmaster's standpoint, Daniel, I mean, nobody has access and knowledge and being around these folks more than you. Is she one of the best ones out there currently? And if so, how long has she been at the top of her game?
Well, she's been cooking barbecue she's been cooking barbecue for over 50 years now. She learned at the City Meat Market in Giddings. Then she and her husband had their own place in Lexington. And then now she's, of course, working at Snows, as she has for the past 15 years. I mean, she's an amazing cook. Certainly amazing at barbecue. One of the things that really sets her apart, though, is the fact that she really cooks in an older style. So many pitmasters these days rely on offset smokers, or some of them rely on those gas-fired rotisseries for much more ease in cooking. And she really does it the old way, which is burning wood down to coals, shoveling them underneath, shoveling them into a pit and cooking meat directly over them. So, you go in there, if you go back to the pits at Snows, which, you can sit at a picnic table and watch Tootsie work as you eat. You can see all the smoke rising from these big steel pits and watch her shoveling the coals and bringing them from the big feeder fire over to the pits. See all that smoke billowing up out of there. She'll lift the lids to mop the meat with her special recipe mop sauce, and you hear that sizzle and just that unmistakable smell of fat dripping down onto coals. It's really just a fun place to go eat, just to watch that show.
Open only one day a week on Saturday. So is it just to kind of keep the nostalgia and the name around, or is it a viable business one day a week?
Well, it is a viable business one day a week. I mean,
wow.
Tootsie, like I said, she has a day job as well. She also runs about 25 head of cattle on her land
Jeez.
outside of Lexington. And then Kerry Bexley, who's the owner, he does some real estate in the area as well. But they also do a lot of shipping as well. So they come in on Saturdays to cook for the public, but on Tuesdays they do a cook as well to be able to ship all the smoked meat that they send across the country. But no, it's certainly not something where it was a 7-day-a-week business and they pared it down to one just so they can keep going. It's in a rural area of Central Texas where Saturday barbecue has been a long time tradition, where the meat markets in the area would sell raw meat all week, and then whatever meat was left over in the cases would get cooked up for barbecue to be served on Saturday. They're also right down the street from a Saturday cattle auction. So Lexington is where a lot of cattle buyers and sellers show up on a Saturday morning at that auction barn, and this was a place that they would always stop for breakfast. It opens not only does it only open on Saturday, it opens at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Oh wow!
And they're usually sold out by noon. So it's barbecue for breakfast in Lexington.
Great story there, Daniel Vaughn joining me here on the show. Daniel, let's talk about these two words, because I think James Beard Awards being handed out and people being nominated, as you said, traditionally known in those higher or fine dining establishments with the word chef. So let's talk about that word first. Can we really call these barbecue nominees like a Tootsie or an Aaron Franklin or Sam Jones or whoever a chef? Have they gone to culinary school? Have they graduated with these requirement documentation? Or should we not be using the word chef?
Well, I think the word chef is it's just showing that they are to be held in the same esteem as anybody who's wearing their whites to work. I've had an argument with some other chefs who felt like they were slighted because pitmasters are moving in on their turf, and they feel like that there should be some sort of separate category for a pitmaster. Instead of putting them directly up against the chefs, and my retort back was, well, what about the figurehead chefs? What about those chefs who now have 12 or 15 restaurants and they don't cook at any of them anymore? They just go back and forth and do quality control and maybe help set up the menu, but they're not doing everyday cooking. But those chefs, they're still plenty eligible to be put up for these awards. So, if we're not creating a separate category for them, just because these incredibly talented cooks happen to be, cooking their meat over fire instead of over a gas burner, I don't think they should be slighted in any way.
But isn't the delineating factor the education or the documentation portion? Isn't that what separates a cook from a chef?
No, I really don't think so.
Really?
I think if you talk to most chefs these days and you ask their advice, should I come work at your restaurant to learn or should I go to culinary school? They would say, come to my restaurant to learn.
Right.
If you feel like you need to go to culinary school later, go ahead. But there are plenty of well-known chefs out there that never went to an hour of culinary school. They just learned everything that they ever knew in a kitchen.
Let's talk about this term as well, because we've mentioned it a couple times. Pit master. What does that mean? How do you define pit master?
Pitmaster is one of those that there's certainly been discussion about the way it's used. In Texas Monthly, we use it much more liberally. Mm-hmm. We use it kind of in the way that you would use the term chef. The term chef doesn't really designate the fact that they have that a person has really mastered a craft. It's really about a position in a kitchen. And that's the way that we use the term pitmaster. It is the lead person in that kitchen who's in charge of the barbecue. Oftentimes in Texas, especially at smaller barbecue joints, that happens to be the owner as well. And in the way we use it, it doesn't always it isn't only applied to people who have a specific level of mastery in barbecue cooking. So maybe the way we use it at Texas Monthly is a little misleading, but then again, if we start separating it out, when do you come, when do you graduate from being a pit hand to a barbecue cook to a pit master? Like, that could be you could really put a slight on someone, really put a dig into somebody by no longer referring to them as a pit master, and maybe just referring them to as a barbecue cook or a pit cook or a pit hand.
Thus, the wonderfulness of me hosting a show where we can dig into two words and I can try and figure out the devil's advocate point on every point that you're making. That's why I love having you on. Daniel Vaughn joining me here on the show. Talk to me about devil sauce. What's devil sauce? And you are currently on the lookout or on a mission to make the best devil sauce.
Well, devil sauce is one of those terms that came up in some of my searches, and looking at old newspapers and old barbecue stories, really came up when I was searching through some of Frank X. Tolbert's old stories in the Dallas Morning News and the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He started writing back in the 30s and wrote all the way up through the 70s. So certainly put a lot of miles driving around, eating all kinds of different cuisine all around the state, but really had a heavy focus in barbecue. He's probably a lot more well-known for chili. He founded a chili competition in Terlingua, a really famous one, and he had there's still a restaurant here that bears his name, Tolbert's in Grapevine, that's famous for their chili, or they don't really call it chili, they call it their bowl of red, which designates the fact that it's it is ground meat and roasted chilies rather than being a bean soup. And so anyway, Frank Tolbert, as he was going around the state, he would write in detail about some of the different barbecue that he would encounter. And one of those things that he talked a lot about was a devil sauce. And he always seemed to be chasing this devil sauce of a guy named Will King Solomon. Great name, but Will King Solomon, we don't know much more about him than the fact that he was a barbecue cook in East Texas in the 30s and 40s. And he had this sauce that it was a thin vinegary sauce with a little tomato, a lot of chili peppers, and certainly a lot of heat to it. And in Frank's writing, he would talk longingly about the sauce and the fact that he was so sad he never got a recipe for it. But he would find these other devil sauces from these other pitmasters, and it was always a comparison back to how well did it compare to Will King Solomon's sauce. And he would again ask for different recipes, and some pitmasters would give him the recipe, some would hold it back, and he published a few of them. And so I decided to make a few of them. You find a barbecue sauce recipe that Frank Tolbert is touting back in the 70s. Why not give it a try?
Sure.
So I made it, and I made one of them that he said was particularly close to Will King Solomon's, and it was good. It just wasn't all that spicy. And some of the ways he had described the sauces that he was trying, these other devil sauces, that some were so hot that you had to put an ice pack between your shoulder blades to be able to down it comfortably. And so, I just went about concocting my own version, adding in some of my own ingredients and making it a whole heck of a lot spicier, adding a lot more cayenne and hot sauce. It's the sauce that came out of it it's an older style sauce. It's not a sweet barbecue sauce. It's certainly not one that you're going to pick up on a store shelf and squeeze on your finger and think it's tasty. Mm-hmm. It packs a punch. And, one of the ways in which I like to judge barbecue sauces, especially barbecue sauces that I'm going to use on barbecue, rather than like on French fries or something else, is the sauces that I generally prefer are ones that I don't like on their own. If you like it on its own, then chances are it's probably too sweet.
Right.
And so, you know, I was, you know, you concoct this. I concocted this devil sauce, and you know, kept trying it and kept trying to dial it in. But really, what I had to do is put it on some barbecue. So instead of, you know, I went the lazy route, and instead of making my own barbecue at home, I just bottled it up and took it around to a couple of my favorite barbecue joints in the area, and poured it over top and kind of dialed in the spice level then. And so it was just a fun, kind of satisfying thing to do to try and look back at some of these old recipes, learn from some of the masters who have come before, and kind of put my own twist on it.
Is there a recipe around somewhere, or are you still waiting to post?
Yeah. I did post the recipe up. It's on TM BBQ, along with some of the history of devil sauces in Texas.
Daniel Vaughn is the editor for Texas Monthly Barbecue when it is out. Again, the website, tmbbq.com. Get the devil sauce and see all the stuff that Daniel's writing about. And once a quarter, you will see him right here on this show. Daniel, always appreciate the conversation. Thanks so much.
Yeah, great talking to you. Thank you.
You got it. There he is. Daniel Vaughn, Texas Monthly Barbecue.
Guests appear via the Traeger Grills hotline. Yummy.
And finally, we have a spirited debate on the word chef and the word pitmaster, because I truly believe in this regard, especially, that's when you can have that conversation. Plus, Daniel not afraid to stand his ground on something that he believes he is right on, and I have no problem standing my ground on flip-flopping all around to make sure that we're looking at all angles. Green Mountain Grills, folks, one of the longest-running sponsors of the Barbecue Central show. I was just talking about that, top of the second hour. The Jim Bowie, the Daniel Boone, the Davy Crockett. If you are somebody that likes to camp, if you're somebody that is really big into tailgating, kind of going out of tailgating season right now, but maybe you are getting into a camping season, or you like to fish, and you're going to be bringing your vehicle along, or you have some type of a power supply to either plug into, or you have that 12-volt that you can go into your car with, you can run that Davy Crockett. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, well, because it is so portable and not incredibly heavy, am I sacrificing capacity and quality in order to bring it with me wherever I go? That is absolutely 100% false. It is completely portable. It has a ton of capacity, and it cooks tremendously. Just look at the email I just got from the guy saying, hey, when I don't want to deal with my stick burner, I use the Davy Crockett, and it turns out some great barbecue. Remember, pellet-driven pellets are compressed wood, so you're getting that full wood burn. Pellet cookers known for a little bit more of a lighter smoke. So if you really like the heavy smoke, you might want to get a smoking tube, which they sell at greenmountaingrills.com as well. Add a little bit more smoke into that cooking process. Now, if you're really not into the travel scene like me, you don't need the portable thing. I mean, it's certainly nice to have. You know, my thought on things, you can't have near enough cookers. You never know what you're going to run into. You got to have all the options. The Daniel Boone is the next step up. You can fit probably 5-6 pork butts in there without pans. Jim Bowie, up from there, you can probably go into the 8 pork butt category if you needed to. A little less if you're going to house them in pans. But again, running off the same idea, pellet hopper, put in the pellets that you like, set the temperature in 5-degree increments all the way up to 500 degrees. You can bake, you can smoke roast, you can kind of grill in there too. I mean, you can get to grilling temperatures. You can adjust the deflector plate to kind of have that open fire access. Really good stuff. greenmountaingrills.com. That's greenmountaingrills.com. Again, longtime supporter of this show. Happy to have them aboard for as long as I have Jason Baker and the gang out there. Top quality, top-notch individuals. Constantly innovating, constantly bringing new things to the pellet grill world. And we appreciate them being part of this show. Again, greenmountaingrills.com. That's greenmountaingrills.com. Brad Taylor coming up after this. Stick around. Be right back.
continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rampey.
This segment brought to you by Fireboard. Monitor up to 6 different temperatures simultaneously. What? Yeah, you heard me. 6 different temperatures simultaneously. You can connect to Wi-Fi or cloud-based monitoring, or connect via the Bluetooth. The red, white, and blue hoo-hoo tooth. And if you have Alexa or the Google Assistant in your Hizzle, you are in luck because Fireboard fully integrated with both. Find out more by visiting fireboard.com. That's F-I-R-E board, fireboard.com, or call 816-945-2232. That's 816-945-2232. Helping me close the show tonight, owner of a barbecue restaurant called Barbecue for Life, located in Boise, Idaho. You would recognize the name because I covered the story last week about his likeness being used by Dickey's barbecue pit on their, I think, to-go bags, without his consent, of course. So let's learn a little bit about this whole deal, how it has since been resolved. We head to the Traeger Grills hotline and welcome first-timer to the show, Brad Taylor. Brad, how are you, buddy?
How's it going? I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, doing absolutely fabulous. Appreciate you making time for the show this evening, Brad. And when it was brought to your attention that something that appeared to be you, your knuckles, kind of gracing that Dickey's barbecue pit bag, where were you? How did you find out? And then we'll kind of build in from there.
So January of last year, I started getting random emails from people, saying, wow, I didn't know you were working with Dickey's, and clearly I wasn't working with Dickey's. So I went to a local one here and walked in and asked if I could buy one of the cups. And so the lady handed me the cup, and I kind of held it up to her. And she goes, why are you on our cups? And I said, that's a great question. I'd like to know. So, I started kind of digging into it and found out that the artwork was all related to their 75-year anniversary. So I knew it had I assumed it had a shelf life on it anyways. I had spoken with a trademark lawyer and all of that stuff. And just at the time, I didn't have the money to do anything. And through the course of all of that, I knew that one of the, local places knew about it. So I'm sure they probably called corporate and said, hey, this is going on. So I just let it rest and got back to work. Our restaurant's been growing like crazy anyway, so I didn't have a ton of time to deal with it. And it all sort of disappeared. So I didn't think about it anymore. And about a month ago or something like that, I happened across the Dickey's catering, and all of the bags were there with my ugly mug and my knuckles on it.
What did you think? Like, how do they come across? You think they were just like Google imaging barbecue stuff to stick on bags, and they saw you? And I mean, certainly, I'm showing your picture up here, and then I'm doing a close up on the fingers. You certainly have a unique look when it comes to marketing and catchy stuff as it relates to barbecue specifically. I mean, that's their business, right? So, do you think they just did like a Google image and just stuck it on there?
If I had to bet money on how it happened, my bet would be that, some new graphics guy got the project put in their lap and went online and Googled a bunch of barbecue images and, thought, oh, look, that looks really cool. I like that guy's knuckles. I'm going to use that, and just ran with it, and nobody ever double checked it, and they went ahead and used it all.
Any flattery?
That would be my assumption.
Any flattery on your part, or just trying to figure out how the hell you could get it off there potentially?
I think a lot of people that are listening would understand it. I wasn't flattered. I was extremely offended. Like when you build a restaurant, it's your whole life. It's everything. It's all we do. It's for 5 years now. That's our whole existence. And to have somebody come and just sort of take parts of it was pretty maddening, to be honest.
Did you feel like, hey, we're Dickey's and we're just going to do whatever we want, and if you're just a little guy you're probably just going to have to suck it up and take it for as long as we run these bags out? Do you think they were trying to run roughshod?
Yeah, this time around. So, when it originally happened, I wasn't all that offended because I could rationally see a way that it had accidentally happened. But this time around, that's when it really got under my skin, and I kind of put it out there that, hey, this is kind of a jerk move. So yeah, it's the first time it was an accident. Second time, I can't see how that was an accident.
So there was talk about sending a cease and desist. I don't know if that actually ever transpired or if it was more, again, a local news outlet or two making calls down. How does it end up resolving itself this time, or has it not?
So, well, they actually put out a statement in regards to the whole issue. They didn't apologize. They said, hey, we were a small business once, and we love small businesses and competition. We don't like this confusion either, so we're going to discontinue using the bags in the Boise market and other markets. So it did no apology and no, we're definitely pulling it from everywhere, just sort of a vague, well, we're going to pull it from your market and maybe some others.
So I did see the words hardcore carnivore above your likeness as well. I associate those words with somebody else in the barbecue and grilling industry, Jess Pryles, who appears on the show from time to time. Was there anything else on that bag that you saw that might have pertained to somebody else in the industry?
So once I had not in the barbecue industry that I saw, but the bulk of that artwork is actually taken from a graphic designer's project from 2012.
Wow.
And she said she somehow saw my post and said, hey, that was my work, and they don't have my permission to be using it either. So,
wow.
So yeah, just the whole, and like I said, I can see where, it could have coincidentally happened, I guess. But it doesn't look like they actually cared if they were taking somebody else's stuff anyways.
So let me play devil's advocate here just for a second. If the second time when they get contacted, they contact you privately and say, hey, Brad, this is Dickey from Dickey's Barbecue Pit. Can we keep the likeness and the knuckles on the bag? We'll give you $150,000. Let us run it through the end of the year, and then we'll be done with it. Is that a conversation you'd be willing to have, or no way?
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I could use money for sure, but that would feel dirty. It would be disingenuous, because I'm not supporting their barbecue, and I've worked too hard for what I've got to let somebody else use it. So I don't think so.
So issue for now resolved.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, assuming that they're pulling everything, all of that, we'll just see. To be honest, I would have preferred to never even have been in this position, but hopefully it's over.
Hey, you get on the Really Big Barbecue show when you're in this position. That's great,
yeah, right?
No doubt.
That's pretty awesome.
So let's talk about Barbecue for Life, the restaurant. The website, by the way, BBQ, the numeral 4life.net. That's .net, so check that out here while we're talking. What kind of a barbecue culture is in Boise?
So there isn't. There's a handful of good barbecue restaurants where people are actually putting, real barbecue out, which is great. But, aside from competition influenced backyard barbecue people, there's no barbecue culture here whatsoever. So, and that can be a little bit frustrating.
When you're putting the restaurant together, because you've had kind of, I don't know if different iterations over time is the right thing to say, but you've been kind of paired up with some other businesses. You're doing your own thing, or you're being paired with like a barbecue sauce company, but you've struck out since then and made it Barbecue for Life. When you're putting together the menu, I see there's some vegan options in there as well. How are you putting together that menu to push the barbecue agenda as you see fit, but then also be viable in the Boise, Idaho area?
So what I've done is, when I originally started out, we had the barbecue that I built and mounted to the back of my truck, and we had a travel trailer that I had converted into a kitchen. So we had extremely limited space. So the menu was extremely limited. I think to start out, we had tri-tip, baby back ribs, and pulled pork, and a couple of sides, and that was it. So we did that for about 7 months, and then moved into, and during that time, we paired up with a local sauce company. We took on their name. They were supplying us with sauce. It worked for both of us. We moved into another a restaurant that was attached to a hotel. So there we were able to start expanding the menu a little bit. But I don't like adding a ton of things to our inventory. So it's all sort of spin-off stuff. You know, the trimmings from the tri-tip I can then grind, and now we're making meatballs, hamburgers, and, you know, now that I've got a grinder, now we got a pork sausage as well. And it just sort of our menu sort of grows that way. So I haven't added too many traditional sort of barbecue items to the menu. It's more like, you know, we do our own pastrami from the ground up, starting with tri-tip, and we do our own bacon from the ground up. So, you know, it's getting there. People are definitely, barbecue is still getting more and more popular as time moves on. So it's changing a little bit, which is nice.
Did you go to culinary school? Are you a chef, or are you just a guy that likes to cook and have mastered the craft?
No, sadly, I mean, if you go back, say even 2008, I was a complete food moron. Like microwave burritos, bologna and cheese sandwiches. I happily ate at Fridays and Red Robin and all of that. And then a friend of mine was getting into competition barbecue and brought me along, and then I got hooked, and it just sort of grew from there. And that's sort of where the barbecue for life thing comes from. You know, when you're finishing up, you've done turn-ins, and now you got to clean up camp and get ready to, you know, kill time between waiting for awards. All of that really frustrating time, I would sarcastically say barbecue for life, you know, to the other guys on the team. So that's where that part came from. But yeah, I had no food training. I had never worked in a restaurant. Just, you know, 4 hard years of competition barbecue.
Is tri-tip the most popular meat dish on the menu?
No, it's actually, so we do a little meat sampler with baby backs, tri-tip, and pulled pork, and that sells the most. And then second is probably all the different variations of pulled pork between the sandwiches, a couple other sandwiches and stuff. But the tri-tip does pretty well too.
When did you decide to put BBQ, the numeral 4, and life on your knuckles?
So that was in 2014, probably right at the beginning of summer. I think I had just talked to a couple of the guys that I used to cook with, and, you know, we had said it during that conversation. And later on that day, I just happened to be looking at my hands, and I was like, holy crap, it would actually fit on my knuckles. So I did it, and then sent a picture to them so that they could get a kick out of it. And that's really it. There's nothing much more to it. I guess you could say that at that point, my whole life and my wife's whole life was all about barbecue. So, you know, maybe part of me was like, all right, if you're really committed to this, let's do this. You're a genius.
How bad did that hurt?
It actually hurt a lot.
Yeah, I bet.
I was really surprised at how much it hurt. And I haven't been tattooed since.
Those aren't your only tattoos, but that was the one that drove you out of getting tattoos.
Yeah, that was good for me. I'm probably good till I come out of my midlife crisis. Maybe then I'll get another one.
If you are in Boise, Idaho, you want to check out BBQ for Life. Again, the website is BBQ, the numeral 4 life.net. Again, that's BBQ4life.net, and it's Brad Taylor who owns the place. Brad, really appreciate the time tonight. Thanks so much for doing it.
Thank you. I appreciate you paying attention to it.
You got it. Absolutely. Brad Taylor, everybody. BBQ for Life.
All guests appear via the Traeger Grills hotline.
WWF.
Yummy.
NWO for Life. Yeah. What a great story that he is. Let me tell you something. I don't want to sit here and brag on how great first-time guests are, but let me recount. As first-time guests go, Brad Taylor wins. Got out with 30 seconds to spare, didn't overtalk, didn't get lost in thought, engaging, charismatic, good storyteller, all things from a host standpoint that makes you radio gold. Whether you do it on the internet, whether you do it on terrestrial or satellite or whatever, that's, if you want to know what a good guest sounds like, he sounds like Brad Taylor. Right there. Especially impressed with the non-over-speaking or over-storytelling. Succinct, to the point, not undersharing, but not oversharing. Great stuff. Thank you, Brad. Appreciate that. So let me tell you about the National Barbecue and Grilling Association, the IMBBQ2018.com. That's the website if you want to check it out. Middle of next month, I will be flying in on the 14th, which is a Wednesday evening, setting up the live remote. Maybe getting some people in to test it out with. And then Thursday, Friday, Saturday of March, I will be doing live shows from the IMBBQ 2018 conference. Current guests locked in already weeks in advance on Friday. 5-time Memphis in May World Grand Champion Chris Lilly from Big Bob Gibson's is in. Sam Jones is also in on Friday from Skylight. Also in the mix, the barbecue podcast luminaries, such as Sean Walchef from Cali Comfort Barbecue and Behind the Smoke, Barbecue War Stories. Of course, my man Yanni will be in from Best Barbecue. Yanni is in. And his man Stover, they will be covering the National Barbecue and Grilling Association. So looking forward to catching up. There's a very good chance that we'll have a live podcast summit on either Thursday or Saturday. Also potentially scheduled Myron Mixon, 4-time grand champion over at Memphis in May, plus multiple-time grand champion through FBA and KCBS. Really, like, one of the most prolific competition barbecuers ever. Mike Mills is tentatively scheduled for Thursday. His daughter Amy Mills also tentatively scheduled. So a host of barbecue who's who. A lot of people aren't going this year, which is kind of disappointing, but I will be there. That's mid-March, IMBBQ2018.com. Register if you're going to be around Dallas-Fort Worth. Stick around. We'll be right back to wrap the show.
Whole packers, full racks, legs and thighs, injecting butts. If you've never heard this before, you might think you found the best XXX show ever. Let's get back to the most homoerotic host out there today, Greg Rempe.
All right, welcome back. Email from John Dawson. Brad is gold is the subject. His tri-tip sandwich, seriously legit. Thank you, John. John actually lives in Boise. One of the few. The hinterlands, as he would say. All right, let's go ahead and break out all the way back in the first hour. We talked with none other than Steven Raichlen. A little bit abridged, but that's all right. BBQBible.com. He is getting ready to shoot Project Fire starting tomorrow. TV show. That's going to start airing Memorial Day weekend. Look forward to that. Early March, his Italian barbecue and grilling show is going to start airing in Italia, if you live out there. Then we talked with Paul Schatte. He's going to be trying out the competition chops at Houston Livestock Rodeo. Second hour, we talked with Daniel Vaughn, TMBBQ.com, about Tootsie getting nominated for that, or being a semifinalist for a James Beard Award, as well as some other barbecuers. And we ended the show with Brad Taylor from Barbecue for Life in Boise, Idaho, with his likeness being ripped by Dickey's. Week. Big show planned for you next week already. So let me leave you with this. September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. And until we meet again next week, this is your program host and proud U.S. American, Greg Rempe. Good night now.